Okay, this video is called Why Do Women Live Longer Than Men? And this video is actually part of a series where I'm going to talk about iron overload in particular. So first of all, why do women live longer than men? I was walking down the hallway. This is many, many years ago in private practice, one of my doctor buddies, and I kind of like this nurse, and I was thinking about asking her out. She's got that beautiful hourglass shape that men love. And she sort of walked in front of us in the hallway, and I said to my friend, you know what? I would gladly give half my salary to have her in my bed. And he said, oh, she'd want a lot more than that. And I thought to myself, what an advantage she has over me. I have to give up half my salary just to get a date. And not only that, I later thought, women have a lot of advantages. They live longer than us. Why is that? They don't get a lot of these medical problems. And that turns out to be an interesting question. First of all, premenopausal women are like the healthiest people in the world. They virtually never get a myocardial infarction, okay? Unless they got other crazy, unusual risk, but almost never. And then if you also look at their serum ferritins, the serum ferritin is like the hourglass of life and death. Basically, with the serum ferritin over 600, they're usually dead by 55. People are in general. With the serum ferritin, less than 200, they'll live, an average of 79 years. So that's one major thing. But the question still is, why does the woman live longer? And the secret is menstruation. Menstruation, it's not estrogen. If you have higher estrogen levels, you're more likely to have a myocardial infarction. It's not the estrogen. It's because they menstruate. Okay? Serum ferritin is just an indicator of the body's total iron storage. That's why it's relevant. And then a couple more things before we get into why does menstruation make women live longer. First of all, the life expectancy in the United States is declining. More and more people are dying at younger and younger ages. And if you walk around, just go to the park, you'll see all these fat people. Americans are fatter and sicker than ever, and they're dying sooner than ever before. So it raises the question, if modern medicine is so good, how come people are fatter and sicker and dying sooner? Okay? Women, they used to live like 7 years longer than men. Now they're living about 6 years longer than men. That's still a lot. Okay, so why does menstruation keep women alive? Because it lowers their hematocrit. When the hematocrit is lowered, here I'll make my little picture bigger. When the hematocrit is lowered, that means blood pressure is lowered because the blood is less thick. It's easier to push it through the circulatory system. In addition, there's more young red blood cells coming out of the bone marrow. When red blood cells are young, they're more deformable, more flexible. They're less glycated. In addition, there's a type of phospholipid called phosphatidylserine, and it initially begins primarily in the inner leaflet of the plasma membrane of the red blood cells. As the red blood cell gets over, it gradually keeps externalizing, going into the outer leaflet. And the point being is that's another thing that stiffens red blood cells. So young red blood cells are more flexible, and that means more readily able to pass through a capillary. That's because a red blood cell is about 7 microns in diameter. Capillary is about 5 microns. So and a red blood cell has to deform, fold back on itself, like doing the limbo to pass through a capillary, and it's easier to do that with the young RBCs. But there's another reason. They have less iron stores. Because they're menstruating, they're losing a lot of iron. Most of the iron in the body, the majority of it, is stored in the hemoglobin molecule for carrying oxygen. And by menstruating every month, they get that iron out of their body, which is good because men become iron overloaded after 20 years of age. Women become iron overloaded in Western countries after menopause, let's say around 50, early 50s. So for those reasons, it's advantageous because excess iron overload in the body causes oxidative stress and a bunch of other health problems. We're going to talk about those in upcoming lectures. Oh, and then I had some jokes. Some people joke that the reason why women live longer is because they're not married to women. Okay, just a silliness joke. And then the other joke was, it's not because they have vaginas. A husband's wallet is like a male vagina. The woman loves to penetrate it and take the money out of it. I've had that experience myself. They say at the marriage ceremony, the woman gets a ring on her finger, the man gets one in his nose. But anyways, be that as it may, women, I look at their brains, I look at their spines when I'm looking at their MRIs. The women's, you show me a 50-year-old woman, 55-year-old woman, 60-year-old woman, her brain and her spine, on average, look significantly better than the men's do. And it's for all these reasons we just talked about. Avoiding atherosclerosis and hypertension slows down aging. Okay, so the question comes up, well, if a woman stops menstruating at menopause around 50, why stop menstruating? And what I mean by that is, you can do a therapeutic phlebotomy, draw a little bit of blood out of their arm every time they go for a blood lab. Cholesterol, serum ferritins, vitamin B12, whatever. Pull off a couple extra tubes. That's what I would recommend doing if their iron is on the high side. And what's your target? Probably ideal serum ferritin level would be about 20 to 80. Some people would say 20 to 100. And so, anyways, my joke was I'm going to announce my retirement from conventional medicine, open up an anti-aging clinic, and just do blood draws. You could actually do surprising benefit. And that's what's also funny is you could really improve a lot of people's health by drawing blood off them more often, because most people in the Western world, men over 20, women over 50, they're iron overloaded. But anyways. Okay, a couple more points on this topic. Mayo Clinic did a big study, over 2,000 women who had hysterectomies, and what they found out was the ones who had hysterectomy are significantly less healthy, especially if they had the hysterectomy at a young age, before 35 years of age. They had a 4.6-fold increased risk of congestive heart failure, 2.5-fold increased risk of coronary artery disease, because they stopped menstruating. We talked about this. A higher hematocrit means higher blood pressure because the blood's thicker, has higher viscosity, RBC is less deformable, higher total body storage of iron. And then here's a study done in China, and they get the same results basically. The younger they had the hysterectomies at, by the way, the most common reason these women are getting hysterectomy is for fibroid tumors, leiomyomas of the uterus, and then those often cause discomfort or increased menstruation, etc. But basically, why do they get that? Because they are overloaded with estrogen, because they don't filter their water, because they eat meat. For example. Okay, women who take birth control pills, they don't menstruate as much. They're more prone to forming clots, having atherosclerotic disease, especially if they're on the birth control pills for decades and decades. If you give epoetin to make people increase their hematocrits to produce red blood cells, it stimulates the bone marrow to produce red blood cells. You get the hematocrit high, these kidney failure patients, they die. So normally kidney failure patients will be anemic for a couple of reasons, one of which is the kidneys are not making EPO as well. But anyways, the whole point is having a higher hematocrit is not necessarily a good thing. These patients are dying sooner with more EPO. And so what's the point overall? In general, you want to live like Adam and Eve with indoor heating and plumbing. This is the best painting, I think, of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve in the Garden by Jan Bruegel and Peter Paul Rubin from 1615. Oh, and here's another joke I have. This is from the Bible, 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8. What love is to relationships, whole food, plant-based diet is to health. Above all, love each other deeply, for love covers a multitude of sins. Use what other gift you have received to help others. And what I'm basically saying is, whole food, plant-based diet, it fixes a whole bunch of metabolic problems. It's just a smart way to go. I'm not an animal rights person. I want people to be nice to animals. Oh, you've already heard my joke about hooked on phonics. If you haven't heard it, I'll just throw it in here for now, even though I know I gave a separate lecture on this. It's rather shocking to learn that most specialists have not read the main papers in their own fields. I'm not joking. I talked to a whole bunch of doctors in different fields. The endocrinologists have not read the papers on diabetes. The atherosclerosis cardiologists, vascular surgeons, they have not read the papers on atherosclerosis. I know them personally. I know these docs quite well. And they're actually real smart, AOAs, but they have not read the papers. AOAs means top 10% of their medical school class. Okay. So that basically means almost no doctors have read this. There's some few exceptions you'll find in some rare places, but it is a rare thing to meet a doctor that's actually read the literature in their own field. They'll read the textbooks, but they haven't read the scientific papers. And you have to read the scientific papers because that's where the real answers are. So I joked that I was going to make the hooked on phonics for doctors. For example, for the endocrinologists, I would include Sweeney, Hemsworth, Brownlee, Taylor, Shulman papers, put them in the nursery rhymes. Something like, it's not that hard to avoid the lard. That's the main thing that causes insulin resistance is excessive dietary fat. There's a bunch of other things that contribute to it. For cardiologists and atherosclerosis, I'll make a classic comics version of Dr. Esselstyn's book. For Dr. Kempner and his wild lifestyle to help teach nephrologists and internists, I'll make it into a James Bond movie. Anyways, just having fun with that. Okay, so here's what's it all about. What happens to a typical patient? Here, let me get my picture out of here. What happens to a typical patient is they take a bunch of pills, maybe go for surgeries. If anybody ever talks to them about diet, they usually get this Mediterranean diet, which is a bunch of nonsense. I joke that the Mediterranean diet is the antichrist of nutrition because it promises salvation, but it causes the opposite. It makes people fat and sick. You can't tell a patient, chicken and fish and cheese and dairy and alcohol and in moderation and then encourage olive oil and these other oils, fish oil, all this stuff. It's crazy, okay? Just going to make them fat and sick. And patients usually don't follow things that tight to begin with. So anyways, if you want to get a person to stop being an alcoholic, you tell them no alcohol, not one drop. You tell them, no cigarettes, not one cigarette. And you tell them no meat, no oil. You got to tell people you have to be tight on it or you're not going to be successful. So I joke what ends up happening is the patient tries a Mediterranean diet and they fail. It's a stupid diet. It's only something that ignoramus would recommend, which is why it's recommended at all the Ivy League schools. Okay, so what ends up happening is they fail the diet, and then they end up having to submit to taking pills every day the rest of their life. And so they get milked like a cow by the medical system. I joke, that's why I wrote chump on the cow. That's a typical patient, taking pills every day because they're too ignorant, they don't know, and they're not motivated enough to fix their diet, which is pretty easy to do, eat low-fat, low-sodium vegan. Causes of insulin resistance, I give separate lectures on that. I'm not going to get into that right now. Okay, what I wanted to show you is there's a whole bunch of things that inhibit the electron transport and the intermitochondrial membrane. The intermitochondrial membrane, of the mitochondria, that's where the body makes the vast majority of its energy. And no matter what you do, you're probably going to be exposed to some of this stuff. Some of these toxic metals like mercury, some of these toxic herbicides. If your water's got F- in it. So what I'm trying to say is you don't want to overload your mitochondria because then your energy level is really going to drop and accelerate your aging. So don't be eating excessive dietary fat. That's a major inhibitor of electron transport. It's the most important one. That's what causes insulin resistance. The main thing that causes insulin resistance. But watch out for excessive iron ingestion. That's real common. We're going to talk about that in detail. Excess copper will also cause problems. Lead. There's a whole bunch of things that can decrease mitochondrial function. So that's the end of part 1.